others watched, but you stepped forward. I admire that. The first to cross my threshold deserves my full attention. Shall we begin? Such soft voices and bright eyes. You've all wandered far to find this place. Rest now, little fireflies. Let the tale unfold. Such soft voices and bright eyes. You've all wandered far to find this place. Rest now, little fireflies. Let the tale unfold. Welcome in. I hope you guys had a good Monday. I am Scriptsune, your book reading kitsune, and we are going to be reading Book 3 of the second series of Warriors today, chapters 11 through 15. Already in the process of separating links. Yeah, you told me that earlier, and I wish you luck on trying to get them to implement warrior cat stuff. I know that there is like a specific place on Roblox that has warrior cats already, but I would be amused because Lynx is a cat if you actually had warrior cats show up for that. So, in the last couple of chapters, what happened is they arrived back, they convinced Firestar to go, and all the other leaders actually showed up, and they did not get a sign, but I was a little bit skeptical because I think either they had a sign or the wrong cats got up there. The one cat that had the dream was supposed to go up there. That's my take on it. I think there's a couple of takes on what the dying warrior could be. We had one of the leaders have a really rough time going up and down the rock face. I think maybe the dying warrior could be that leader, and the direction that they are at with their clan could be the direction that they're meant to go, or they have yet to receive the sign, or a third one where like maybe a star, like a shooting star, as in a dying warrior, because Star Clan is seen as the stars, and if Star Clan dies, that would be a shooting star. But that's just my take on the previous chapters. I think that might be a possibility of what might happen. So I have added in all the fish up until this point. I've added a couple extras, and I don't know if I missed a few or not. I might have, but as we're reading along, I will probably stop and check what we have on fish. And down the line, I'll see if I can't go into the code of fish and see if I can't improve the legendary odds more. I know that when it comes to the weight of all the fish, it's a lot harder to get one that weighs a lot more than the other ones, but all the fish, typically the weight is maximized at 5 when it comes to the fish, which means the higher quote-unquote fish weights that are going to be harder to get are mostly going to be legendaries of cats that weigh more. I put it as 5 max, even though I know cats can weigh up to like 20 pounds, but I put it as like the rarity of the catch as like 1 to 5 on the weight of the fish. Depending on if they're a kit, then it's a 1, because that's going to be a lot easier to get. It's a common. And then you have the warriors and the kit mothers, which are like 3 or 3.2, and then some of them weigh more depending on how they're described in the story, and their importance in the story might change the effect of the weight to be a little bit more. I am getting a call and I am going to ignore that. Ignored. Thank you. That had no caller ID on it. That was so weird. But yeah, so that's what the weight of the fish is. Usually when it comes to the kit mothers, I give them a 3.2 simply because they weigh more. You know what I mean? They have the pregnancy weight, and they're birthing new kits, which gives them a little bit more importance in the story than just a random ass warrior that's like, you see them once and they die. So they have a little bit more importance because they actually birthed the new generation for all the different series names for these cats. But what we left off with was that I think Shadow Clan said that they're going to go into the town in place of what Blood Clan used to have in Series 1. And Wind Clan is waiting on Thunder Clan to leave, but Wind Clan is so weak they might die before they even get to. So Wind Clan has a lot of cats that are dying due to sickness or malnutrition right now. Thunder Clan is heading that way, and River Clan, we have Hawkfrost, the son of Tiger Star, that wants to take over the forest and has the same ambitions as he did. And we have met Sasha, both from being in the kitty pet cages and also actually seeing them on the River Clan land. So I'm a little bit skeptical of what's going to happen there. But when you see and think about how you have all these characters and you're going to have a lot of different blood ties in multiple clans, you can see that they're meant to be one clan now. But these cats, they're territorial. They don't quite know. And that is kind of what the journey was about for the 4 cats, is learning to become one. I do believe that was the main message. And now that they're back, they aren't really trying to convince their leaders and clans as much as I thought they would be. So we're gonna see how that goes. I'm gonna go ahead and open this energy drink real quick. Hi, Husky. I'm gonna take a sip of this energy drink because delicious. How are you doing, Husky? I was just explaining this story in the past couple of chapters. Oh, thank you for the large bow, Hurley. I know, Husky, I was trying to get on Star Citizen earlier, and none of the cargo hauling, like, freight elevators were showing anything. Just here to lurk and be a turd. Alright. You lurk and be a turd then. Thank you for the made headpiece, Holy. Servers are whacked out again? Yeah. Let me know if you can get them to work. See if you can try, like, syncing your time. Like, you do the time sync and see if that fixes it. But I think that every server that messes up that we go to stays like that until we can get to the patch, which means every server that we go to that desyncs from us is permanently desynced until we can get the new patch. Like tomorrow evening. Alright. Yeah, fine with that. Finishing MHA's finals. Hey. My Hero Academia? Damn. You're gonna see the ending of it and you're gonna be like, yeah, that seems right. That seems right. The ending is as you expected. I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but have fun. Alright, you guys. So, chapter 11 through 15. I'm gonna do my usual thing. If any ads pop up, I'll probably take a break during the ad time. Because fuck ads, and it kind of interrupts the story, so I'll just take a break so you guys can actually come back to the story at the same spot. Have fun, lurk. Bye. And as I was saying earlier, Fish has new stuff, so I wish you luck on getting legendaries. It's hard to get the legendaries. I'll look into that later and see if I can't up the boost of it more, since we have so many characters. I want to be able to, like, make an actual boost button for it, so I could be like, hey, legendary hour, you know what I mean? And then you could actually see legendaries pop up at least once every 5 minutes. That's my goal. Alright, let's start. Chapter 11. The rain grew heavier as Firestar led the patrol back to camp. Squirrelpaw was disappointed with how little prey they had caught. Brambleclaw had managed to scrabble up an oak and catch a squirrel dozing in the crook of a branch. But the effort had left him breathless. And Squirrelpaw realized that the hungry days since they had returned to the clan were beginning to have an effect on them both. I think it's best if we don't tell the others what we learned about Hawkfrost. Firestar decided as they trekked through the dripping trees. But shouldn't the clan be prepared in case... Squirrelpaw faltered. In case anything happens? She finished lamely. Brambleclaw dropped the squirrel he held in his jaws. Rainwater streamed from his whiskers. I think Firestar's right, he agreed. It would be better for the clan if they didn't know. Squirrelpaw narrowed her eyes. Was it the clan Brambleclaw was interested in protecting, or himself? Was he afraid what the other cats would say? He had struggled long enough already to prove his loyalty, and yet no cat could forget his father's efforts to destroy ThunderClan. There's no need of pointing... hang on. I already messed up. There's no point stirring up unnecessary hostility, Firestar went on. Ashford gave a low growl. What if Hawkfrost shares his father's ambition to take over the whole forest? He clearly shared Squirrelpaw's secret fear. We mustn't jump to conclusions, Firestar warned. It's clear that Hawkfrost's first loyalty is to his clan. He said he would fight to defend them. Does that sound like Tigerstar to you? Reluctantly, Ashford shook his head. And Firestar went on. Hawkfrost is no threat to us. Yet, Ashford mewed pointedly. Until he proves he is, there's no need to worry the rest of the clan. Firestar continued. We might need RiverClan's help before this is over. Ashford swished his tail in frustration, but did not argue. Don't worry, Ashford, Squirrelpaw reassured him. She hoped she sounded more confident than she felt. Hawkfrost is just Hawkfrost. Tigerstar has left nothing bad in the forest except memories. Brambleclaw picked up the squirrel without commenting and patted away towards Sounding Rocks. Squirrelpaw cast an anxious glance at her father. You'll be okay, he meowed quietly as he brushed past her. By the time the cats reached Sounding Rocks, rain was battering the exposed rock, and water ran down into rivulets, turning the earth around the rocks to mud. But instead of finding shelter, cats were gathered halfway up the slope, huddled in a circle. Moans of sorrow mingled with the rattling of rain in the stone. With a startled mew, Firestar bounded up the rock, and Squirrelpaw followed, pushing through the cats with her, heart beating in her throat. A small dark brown shape lay in the center, pelted by rain which turned pale red as it streamed away down the stone. Squirrelpaw stared down at the limp, sodden body, too shocked to speak as she recognized the narrow muzzle. It was Shrewpaw. Cinderpelt and Leafpaw crouched beside the apprentice. His neck is broken, Cinderpelt murmured. He must have died as soon as the two-leg monster hit him. He would have felt no pain. Squirrelpaw closed her eyes. StarClan, what are you doing? She yowled silently. A desolate cry sounded from the nursery hollow, and Ferncloud hurtled down the slope. Shrewpaw had been one of her first litter. The cats parted to let her see her dead kit. What have I done to StarClan that they would steal so much from me? She wailed. Don't blame StarClan, Leafpaw mewed gently. It is the two-legs that have done this. Why didn't StarClan stop them? Ferncloud sobbed. They're powerless against the two-legs, just like we are, Leafpaw whispered. She gave herself a shake, then straightened up and called, Cody? Squirrelpaw watched the kitty pet weave her way through the gathered cats. Her ribs were beginning to show through her flanks, but she hadn't tried to insist that any warriors be spared from hunting patrols to take her home. I think Ferncloud should go back to the nursery, Leafpaw meowed. It's flooded with rain, Cody told her. I've put Birchkit in the warrior's den beneath the overhang. I'll take Ferncloud to join him. Good idea, Leafpaw mewed. Do you still have the poppy seeds? Cody nodded. She looked at Ferncloud, who was distraught with grief. Birchkit is hungry and crying for food, she murmured. But I think he can manage solid food if I chew it up first. Ferncloud isn't going to be able to feed him herself for a while. Poor thing. Brambleclaw caught a squirrel You could have that, Squirrel Paw suggested. I'll bring it to the den, Ashfur offered. Cody nudged Ferncloud with her nose. With Leaf Paw's help, they managed to lead her away from her dead kit and back to the shelter of the warrior's den. How did this happen? Firestar demanded when they had gone. It wasn't with me, began Thornclaw, Truepaw's mentor. His fur stood on end, and his eyes were huge with despair. He was chasing a pheasant. Why didn't he see the two-legged monster? He was chasing a pheasant, Thornclaw repeated. It would have fed half the clan. Forgot to be careful. Didn't you hear or smell the monster and warn him? Firestar's question was filled with more sorrow than accusation. Thornclaw miserably shook his head. With prey so scarce, the hunting is better if we split up. I wasn't close enough to see what was going on. Firestar dipped his head, understanding. I'll sit with him. Whitepaw's young voice sounded over the beating of the rain. Truepaw had been her den mate since kithood, and the sorrow of losing him glistened in her green eyes. I don't care if we've been driven out of our camp. We can still hold a vigil. I'll join you, Thornclaw croaked. He leaned down and pressed his nose against Truepaw's bloody flank. The other cats began filing past to bid farewell to their young clanmate. When it came to her turn, Squirrelpaw stooped low over Shrewpaw's body, her heart aching. You're an apprentice in ThunderClan, but you will be a warrior with StarClan, she whispered. She turned away and padded down the slope toward shelter of the trees. Her sadness feeling like a part of the rain and tiredness that seemed to seep right into her bones. Oh, hi, thank you for raiding. Welcome in, raiders. Hi, we are currently reading Warriors, Book 3, which is Dawn of the second series. How was your raid? Like, how is your stream? What did you stream? Welcome in. Raid jump scare. Yeah, raid jump scare. I'm like, what the fuck do I do? Let me see if I can do a shout out real quick. Thank you for the follow. I gotta type it in. Here we go. Okay, just pre-warning you. The shout is loud. He likes your bow. Oh, thank you. This is actually a redeem. The made headpiece in the bow is actually a redeem. I actually rigged the model and did the art myself, so it's nice. I went well, finished up some ASMR, but I was losing steam a little. Oh, understandable. Understandable. But yeah, I am Scriptsune, your book reading kitsune. I do Monday streams. It's at the same time every week, which is 8 p.m. PST. And sometimes I do hand cam streams if I am feeling down and can't really, talk too much, as usual. But yeah. If you have any questions about the Warrior series, feel free to ask. We are currently on the second series, so I can tell you all about the first series and a little bit about the second. Welcome, Raiders. Please read the rules and enjoy reading. Yes. Don't you mean listening, Husky? And I love Tomo. You gotta love Tomo. Thank you for the lurk, Husky. I actually originally read a first couple of the books of Warriors when I was in high school. And I recently got all the series. I think they're working on another series right now. But there is some fun news they are actually making an animated series of Warriors, and that's gonna be in like a year or two. They're actually doing that. I think that's cool. That they're actually gonna make a show out of it. Anime is def my comfort show to watch. I watch it going to bed. Oh. I used to watch Adult Swim, so I started with like Inuyasha, Yu-Gi-Oh, Bleach, and then like from there I watched so many different animes. It's insane. I have done like any genre you can think of. I have at least tried it once. I'm not too much into mecha, but I was into Code Geass. Code Geass actually was okay for a mecha for me. And then like all the gory fighting ones like Berserk, or then you have the rom-coms like Lovely Complex, Wolf Girl, Black Prince. You know what I mean? Yeah, I've seen Night and Magic too. Night and Magic was okay. What I'm really waiting for is another season of the Saga of Tanya the Evil. Sucker for romance. What? Yeah. I think Saga of Tanya the Evil is a really good one if you're looking for something that's not rom-com or romance. It's an isekai, but it's like, it's not your typical kind of isekai where like you're just reincarnated and then you're like given these abilities. Oh no. Oh no. Tanya has to go through some shit in order to fight Being X. Tanya is a really good isekai that's a little bit different from the usual ones. Anyway, if you do have to raid and run, feel free. I know that it is late for other people. It is around 8:20 for me, but I know for those that are on the other side of the US, it's going to be a lot later. Thank you for the follow. And it's probably going to be like 10 p.m. and I know it's weekdays, so you know, some people work. That and also going for a long time streaming kind of, it can be draining, especially if you're an introvert like me. I really enjoy the books though. And we're actually in a very touching scene here right now. So what just happened as you guys were coming in to stream is the cats were returning to the current makeshift home that they have at Stunning Rocks. And one of the apprentices had just died because of a two-leg monster, aka a tree cutter. Because they're breaking down the forest right now and their main contender in the second series is humans. So they're about to stand vigil for this apprentice, and that is where we currently are sitting with this. A little bit about the second series, aside from this, is originally you started in the first book, you have one cat from each clan was set out on a journey as they were given visions by Star Clan to save their clans. They have come back to their clans, told their clan leaders that they needed to meet up, and they have yet to receive the sign to say where they're supposed to go. The whole thing is they're supposed to come together and become one clan. Hi Wampus, welcome in. So it's a little bit frustrating because they're not listening to the people who actually had the visions and joining together like they're supposed to. So there's a lot of hardships right now. Firestar is having a really hard time of it because he believes in Star Clan a lot, because when he was a kitty pet, that's how he came to the forest first off. So he's waiting for the other clans to come together, but it's also harming his clan. And that is what you see here with the apprentice dying from one of the humans' contraptions. You gonna fish? Have fun, Wampus. Wampus, you haven't been here in a while, so it's actually, instead of a command, it is now a redeem. So you can hit the button And it has no cooldown, so just don't spam it and you're fine. There you go. Makes it a lot easier. Thank you, Wampus. Alright. You liked fucked up by typing. Yeah, it's okay, Wampus. It's okay. Now, where did we leave off? Right. You'll be a warrior with StarClan, she whispered. She turned away and padded down the slope towards the shelter of the trees. Her sadness feeling like part of the rain, and tiredness that seemed to seep right through to her bones. She spotted Brambleclaw sitting beneath a larch tree, watching her. Oh, an ad starts in a minute, you guys. I will be taking a break once the ad starts so we can come back to the point where I stopped off. Can't believe Shupa is dead, she sighed. I know, Brambleclaw murmured, entwining his tail with hers. Squirrelpaw leaned closer to him. Ferncloud is heartbroken. She'll find comfort in having the rest of her clan around her, Brambleclaw sighed. Squirrelpaw couldn't help feeling that he was talking about more than Ferncloud's grief. After all, the clan means more to a cat than real kin, he went on. Even Tawnypout? She is with ShadowClan now. My loyalty to her comes second to ThunderClan, and she understands that. Alright. The ads have started. If you are out of ads, you are completely lucky because they have been shoving ads more now that I have passed like 100 followers. But I will see you guys as soon as the ads are over, so I will be right back. I'm back. Ads are not yet, though. Hope you're having a good time, Wampus. Did you know that I actually have never turned off the improved, like, odds of having fish legendaries? Welcome back, everyone, from the ads. And thank you, Sam. I know, the ads are spooky. Alright. Let's go from where we left off. What about Hawkfrost and Mothwing? Do you feel anything for them? Now that you know you share the same father. Knowing we share the same father doesn't change anything, Brambleclaw went on. I'm nothing like Hawkfrost. The tip of his tail twitched anxiously. Am I? Of course not, Squirrelpaw replied hotly. No cat would think you are, even when they find out what we have in common. ThunderClan will always think of you as a brave warrior, loyal to his clan, Squirrelpaw reassured him. Thank you. He gave her a quick lick on the cheek before getting to his paws and moving away towards the river. Squirrelpaw followed, keeping pace with him until he sat down and stared across the border into RiverClan territory. Squirrelpaw followed his gaze. The river carved its way through the small glade, its surface shattered by the pouring rain. She peered closer and blinked. Look, Brambleclaw, she mewed in surprise. Look at the river. What about it? Do you remember when Hawkfrost and Sasha waddled across it earlier? Yes, Brambleclaw twitched his ear. So? Well, they wadded across it, Squirrelpaw repeated. They didn't swim. They wadded. Brambleclaw looked baffled. Look at the stepping stones. Squirrelpaw jumped up and pointed with her tail. They're sticking right out of the water. After a rain like this, in the middle of Leafbearer, it should nearly be covered. You're right. Brambleclaw sat up. Surely the river shouldn't be this shallow. Well, it's been quite dry lately, Brambleclaw commented. Not that dry, she argued. It's been pouring all day today, but the river's not swollen at all. Something must be wrong. Like what? Just then, a familiar voice called from the bank opposite. What are you two up to? Stormfur appeared and waddled across the stream. Are you finding it hard as I am, being cooped up in the camp after our journey? Yes, everything is harder. Truepaw died, Squirrelpaw told him sadly. Whitepaw's sitting vigil. Suddenly, she wondered if they should be getting back to camp. Mourning their lost clanmate. She glanced at Brambleclaw, who seemed to understand her anxiety. We'll join them soon, he promised. Do you want me to catch your fish to take back? Stormfur offered. Clan needs all the fresh kill they can get, Brambleclaw meowed. But I don't think they'd accept it. Are you sure? Stormfur asked. They're easy to catch now that the water's dropped. So I was right. The level is lower than usual, Squirrelpaw mewed, gazing again at the shallow stream. Something wrong? Stormfur shrugged. Just a dry spell. This rain will get it flowing again. Squirrelpaw picked up a trace of Sasha's stale scent on the breeze. She glanced at Stormfur. The mystery of the river seemed suddenly less important than how the rest of RiverClan felt about the rogue she-cat who seemed to come and go as she pleased, and whose kids had so much influence in their adopted clan. We saw Sasha this morning, she began. You know Sasha? Stormfur looked surprised. Oh, I forgot. You met her when you rescued Mistyfoot, didn't you? When my father was taken. His voice trailed away, and Squirrelpaw pressed her flank against his. I'm so sorry, she mewed helplessly. Stormfur nudged her with his nose. So am I. I wish I could have been there to help, he meowed. But my father made his own decision to help the trapped cats. He took a deep breath before he went on. Thanks to him, we got Mistyfoot back. The whole of RiverClan were amazed when she showed up. Hawkfrost especially, I'm sure, Brambleclaw commented. Squirrelpaw shot him a warning glance. Hawkfrost had been made deputy when Mistyfoot disappeared, which meant he might not have welcomed Mistyfoot back with the same enthusiasm as every other cat. But was Brambleclaw giving away too much interest in Sasha's kit? They couldn't be sure how much Stormfur knew about Hawkfrost's parentage. Well, I doubt he wanted to stop being deputy quite so soon, Stormfur agreed. But he welcomed her return as much as any other cat. He's a good warrior. He knows he'll be deputy one day, and he doesn't mind waiting. Sounds very confident, Squirrelpaw remarked carefully. He's always been like that, Stormfur replied. What's more important is that he's totally loyal to the clan, and sticks to the royal code like a caterpillar to a leaf. Squirrelpaw blinked. Somehow she didn't think Stormfur had the faintest idea of who Hawkfrost's father was. She looked at Brambleclaw, trying to read his reaction, but Brambleclaw had something else on his mind. Do you think there's any chance Leopardstar would change her mind about leaving the forest? Leopardstar says she's not going anywhere as long as there's fish in the river, Stormfur told him. Doesn't she care about the clan staying together? Squirrelpaw demanded. She did ask Mudfur if he'd had any sign from StarClan, just to be sure. Stormfur told her defensively, but Mudfur hasn't left his nest much recently. So he's had no sign either? Squirrelpaw asked, disappointed. Nothing, Stormfur sighed. It looks like the sign Midnight promised us isn't going to come, now that the Two Lakes have destroyed 4 trees. Perhaps we've seen the sign, but just not realized what it was, Squirrelpaw wondered out loud. Well, we've seen plenty of dying since we got back, Brambleclaw muttered darkly. Not just warriors, but kits and apprentices too. But you know what? I'm beginning to think that no cat's going to show us the way. Wherever we're going, we'll have to find our own way there. That was the end of chapter 11. Chapter 12. Leafpaw raked through the fur at the base of her tail, scraping out the troublesome flea. She cracked its fat body between her teeth, tasting with some satisfaction blood it had stolen from her. Got it! Don't tell the others you had an extra piece of fresh kill, Squirrelpaw joked. They'll all want one. Leafpaw's belly growled. The bowl she had just shared with her sister had barely touched her hunger. They were lying side by side in a shallow dip in the stone, watching the sun sink behind sunning rocks. The clouds had cleared and a perfect half-moon hung in the blue evening sky. Has Cinderpelt decided whether you're going to make the journey to the Moonstone tonight? Squirrelpaw meowed. She's speaking with Firestar about it now, Leafpaw replied. The medicine cats of every clan met each half-moon at Mother Mouth to share tongues with StarClan. They didn't need the half-moon to secure a truce. Medicine cats lived outside from the differences between clans that sometimes led to quarrels. But it was an important time for sharing concerns and advice about treating their clanmates. Leafpaw saw Cinderpelt emerge, and she clambered to her paws, keen to find out if they would be going to Highstones in spite of the dangers that lurked in the forest. But Cinderpelt shook her head as she came over and stood at the edge of the hollow. Firestar agrees with me, she reported. You can't risk the journey with so many two-legs and monsters about. But we need to share with StarClan now more than ever, Leafpaw protested. Firestar says we cannot risk losing us, and he's right. Where would the clan be without a medicine cat? Leafpaw sighed and scraped at the rock with a claw. StarClan will share with us if they wish to, Cinderpelt mewed. Leafpaw shrugged. Maybe. Well, I'm glad you're not going, Squirrelpaw meowed, as Cinderpelt padded away. I nearly lost you to the two-legs once. I don't think I could bear it again. Leafpaw gave her sister a quick lick. Do you think RiverClan cats would go to High Stones? She wondered out loud. It was strange to think that the other medicine cats might be making the journey without them. But StarClan thinks Cinderpaw and Leafpaw were being cowardly. I doubt they'll risk it, Squirrelpaw told her. Last time Brambleclaw and I saw Stormfur, he said Mudfur was pretty sick. I was just hoping that if the medicine cats from all clans traveled to the Moonstone together, it might bring us closer, Leafpaw admitted. Squirrelpaw nodded. I know. You'd think trouble like this would unite us, like it did when BloodClan attacked, but instead we seem forced apart. Each clan seems to have its own idea about what to do, Leafpaw sighed. If only StarClan would give us a sign. Were you hoping that StarClan might share something with you tonight? Leafpaw gave a small nod, avoiding her sister's gaze. She didn't want to betray the fear that had made her heart pound all day. The cold dread that they would all go the way to the Moonstone and find StarClan silent even there. It's stupid that the clans should find it so hard to come together. Squirrelpaw's mew interrupted her thoughts. They have far more in common than they think. Leafpaw looked thoughtfully at her sister, suddenly wondering what Squirrelpaw was hinting at. After all, ShadowClan, RiverClan, and ThunderClan even share kin, Squirrelpaw went on. You mean Tawnypelt and Stormfur? Not just them. Squirrelpaw's tail twitched as she spoke. There are other cats linked to ThunderClan by blood. The jolt. Leafpaw wondered if her sister had discovered a secret she had known for a moon and kept to herself. Are you talking about Tigerstar being Hawkfrost and Mothwing's father? Squirrelpaw stared at her in astonishment. Have you been sharing my dreams again? Leafpaw shook her head. I've known for some time, she admitted. Why didn't you tell me? Squirrelpaw demanded. I didn't think it mattered. Not right now, when all the clans are in danger. Why should it make a difference if Tigerstar is Hawkfrost and Mothwing's father? Leafpaw knew she was trying to convince herself. The last thing the clans needed was another cat with Tigerstar's hunger for power. A warrior like Hawkfrost can't be trusted, Squirrelpaw insisted. Leafpaw felt an uneasy knot twist in her belly. But Tigerstar is Brambleclaw's father too, she pointed out. Brambleclaw is a loyal Gosh, I have to redo that one. And Brambleclaw is a loyal warrior. God, that doesn't... You would think that would roll better off the tongue, but that's actually kind of a little bit of a tongue twister for me. Loyal warrior. Brambleclaw has nothing to do with this, Squirrelpaw snapped. Of course not, Leafpaw agreed quickly. I only meant that having Tigerstar as a father doesn't mean a warrior has to follow in his paw steps. She prayed this was true. Good, Squirrelpaw nodded. Because Brambleclaw is completely different from Hawkfrost. They have nothing in common. Nothing. Leafpaw curled into a ball beside her sister and buried her nose under her paws for warmth. Squirrelpaw's words had sounded like an echo. Were they Brambleclaw's, perhaps? Good night, Squirrelpaw, she whispered, curling up close to Squirrelpaw. The sharp words forgotten. Leafpaw did not need a visit from StarClan to tell her that her sister was falling in love with Brambleclaw. Amid everything else that was going on, and however much Leafpaw missed the connection that once only the two of them shared, this felt right and good for the whole clan. She closed her eyes. I wonder if StarClan will share my dreams, she thought, as sleep tugged at her like a gentle river. It was a half moon, after all. I had to count for something, even if they weren't at the moonstone. Leafpaw felt the insistent nudge of a nose prodding her awake. "Who is it?" she whispered sleepily. "It's me, Mothwing." The young cat's voice trembled with fear. Leafpaw blinked open her eyes and saw RiverClan apprentice outlined in the pale moonlight. "Come quick, I need you." Mothwing mewed under her breath. Leafpaw felt her sister stirring beside her. "What's going on?" Squirrelpaw yawned. "It's Mothwing," Leafpaw told her. Squirrelpaw was on her paws in an instant. "What are you doing in our camp?" she hissed. "I need Leafpaw's help," Mothwing explained. "Mudfur is very ill." "And you thought you'd just creep in here in the middle of the night?" "Be quiet, Squirrelpaw, before you wake the whole clan," Leafpaw growled. She wanted to tell her sister to stop seeing Tigerstar's daughter standing in front of them, and see her instead as a medicine cat in trouble. But she didn't want to make Mothwing feel uncomfortable. "Wait here, both of you," she meowed. "I'll go tell Firestar and Cinderpelt." "But," Mothwing began. Leafpaw silenced her with a glance. "I'll come with you, but I have to tell them where I'm going." Leaving the two cats in uneasy silence, she hurried up the slope to the overhang. She crept into the shadowy cavern and followed her father's scent. Firestar lifted his head drowsily. "Is that you, Leafpaw?" Beside him, sandstorms shifted but did not wait. "Mothwing's come to ask for help if I can go and help Mudfur. He's really ill." She saw a shadow moving toward her from the back of the den, and scented Cinderpelt. "What's she treating him with?" the medicine cat called under her breath. "I don't know," Leafpaw replied. "Do you think it's safe to go?" Firestar's eyes gleamed anxiously in the gloom. "Mothwing wouldn't lie to me," she assured him, guessing he feared an ambush from strong RiverClan cats. "And you must go," Firestar murmured. "But if you are not back by dawn, I will send a patrol to fetch you." "We'll be back," Cinderpelt promised. She met Leafpaw's surprised gaze. "I'm coming too. We must do everything we can to help Mudfur." She led Leafpaw out of the den to the crevice where she kept her supplies and pulled out several bundles of leaves. Leafpaw picked up half the bundles, and they hurried down the rock where Mothwing waited with her sister. "I'm coming with you," Squirrelpaw announced. Leafpaw shook her head. "No need," she muttered through the bundles dangling from her teeth. "I'll make sure they both return safely," Mothwing meowed. Squirrelpaw stared distrustfully at the RiverClan cat, and Leafpaw knew her sister was seeing a different cat, broad-shouldered and with gleaming amber eyes. Though they had been born many moons after Tigerstar's death, both sisters had heard him described enough times to be able to picture him as well as any of their clanmates. "Remember, Brambleclaw," she whispered to her sister. Sharing Tigerstar's blood did not mean a cat shared his dark heart. "Lead the way, Mothwing." Cinderpelt's order was muffled by the bundle she carried, but Mothwing nodded and bounded silently down the slope. They waded easily across the river, keeping the herbs above the water. Leafpaw thought back to barely a moon ago, when she had crossed the stepping stones to help a RiverClan apprentice. She had nearly been swept away by the force of the water, and only the spirit of Spottedleaf had stopped her from plunging into the rain-swollen flood. Now the stream trickled quietly around the rocks, hardly covering the pebbles on the riverbed. Mothwing led the ThunderClan cats into the reed beds. They were no longer marshy, but felt dry under paw. Leafpaw's heart quickened at the thought of entering another clan's camp. But Mothwing seemed unconcerned and took them straight into the clearing among the reeds. Unfamiliar eyes gleamed in the shadows, but there's nothing but worry and curiosity in their faces. "Good you have come," Leopard Star greeted them. Even in the moonlight, Leafpaw could see that the RiverClan leader was not as well fed as she had been lately. Her pelt hung from her body, and her eyes had the dullness of hunger that Leafpaw had begun to accept as normal. But why should RiverClan cats be starving, and the two lakes were still a long way from their territory? "Mudfur is in his den," Leopard Star meowed. "Mothwing would take you." She stared into Cinderpelt's eyes. "Do everything you can, but don't let him suffer. He has served this clan well, and if StarClan needs him more than we do, then we should let him go in peace." Leafpaw followed Cinderpelt and Mothwing through a narrow reed-lined passage that opened into a smaller clearing. It was so similar to the medicine clearing in the ravine that she felt a pang of longing for her old home. A low moan came from a shadowy corner. "It's all right, Mudfur," Mothwing whispered. "I brought Cinderpelt." Cinderpelt hurried over to examine the medicine cat, sniffing him and pressing gently along his flanks with her paws. Whatever it was, the sickness had taken hold of... Oh gosh. Hang on, I'm gonna drink a little bit of water. My tongue's just catching a little bit. There we go. Whatever it was, the sickness had taken hold far inside of his frail body. Mudfur was clearly in agony, his words indistinct and filled with pain. "Cinder, let me go peacefully," he begged in a voice that rasped like claws scraping on bark. "Lie still, my friend." Cinderpelt looked up at Mothwing. "What have you given him so far?" "Stinging nettle for the swelling, honey and marigold to soothe the infections, feverfew to cool him, and poppy seeds for the pain." Mothwing listed her remedies so quickly that Leafpaw blinked. Last time she had seen Mothwing face a crisis, when the RiverClan apprentice nearly drowned, she had been frozen with panic, and Leafpaw had stepped in to treat the young cat instead. "Good. That's exactly what I would have given him," Cinderpelt agreed. "Have you tried yarrow yet?" Mothwing nodded, but it made him sick. "I can do that sometimes." Cinderpelt looked down at Mudfur, and her blue eyes clouded with sympathy. "I'm sorry. I don't think there's much more we can do." "But he's suffering," Mothwing protested. "I'll give him more poppy seeds," Cinderpelt meowed. "Do you have any marigold left?" "Plenty." Mothwing hurried to a gap in the reed wall and drew out a pawful of crushed petals. Taking some dried berries from one of the bundles, Cinderpelt began to knead the petals into them. The berries still had enough softness in them to make pulp. Cinderpelt sprinkled in more poppy seeds than Leafpaw had seen her use before. Then she pushed the mash of herbs to Mudfur. "This will soothe your pain," she whispered. "Eat as much as you can." The old medicine cat began to lap at it, his eyes growing soft with gratitude as he recognized what was in the mixture. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. I hope you enjoyed the story. For a wild moment, Leafpaw wondered if Cinderpelt had given him enough poppy seeds to make him sleep all the way to StarClan. But she knew from the gentleness in her mentor's eyes that she was only trying to ease Mudfur's pain. However silent the warrior ancestors had been lately, Cinderpelt still trusted them to come for Mudfur when they chose to. "Leave us now," Cinderpelt murmured to Leafpaw and Mothwing. "I'll sit with him until he sleeps." "Will he die?" Mothwing asked, her voice quivering. "Not yet," Cinderpelt told her. This will ease his suffering until StarClan calls him. Leafpaw backed away and followed Mothwing through the tunnel to the main clearing. How is he? Leopardstar demanded as soon as they emerged into the silvery pool of moonlight. Cinnapout's doing all she can, Mothwing reported. Oh. Brooke is one of the new ones, by the way. That is actually Stormfur's love interest. If you were here for that, Wampus. So you're getting one of the special cave ones. Yeah, that's one of the special cave cats that we had met. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Leopardstar nodded, then turned and padded away. Never been here before, Leafpaw mewed, hoping to distract Mothwing. It's well sheltered. Ad starts in a minute, you guys. You're a little late, no problem. Welcome in. Ad's gonna start in a minute, so I'm probably gonna take a short break until it's over. I'm gonna pause where we're at in the book and do stretching or whatever I do in the 2 minutes. And then we'll come back and go from where we left off. The young cat shrugged. It's a good camp. I'm not surprised Leopardstar doesn't want to leave it, Leafpaw went on, being careful to keep her voice non-threatening. She was curious about Leopardstar's sudden thinness, and by the look of the other cats moving around the edge of the clearing. The RiverClan leader was not the only cat going hungry here. Alright. The ads should have started. If you are not in the ads, you are lucky. Very quickly build an entire gun plug at every break. Build an entire empire, yeah. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna grab some Legos and just build an entire empire. That's what I'm gonna do. I'll be right back. As soon as break ends, then we can just continue reading. Star Destroyer isn't gonna steal it. It's just build itself. Yeah, I agree. Ad break says it's gonna end in about 20 seconds. Water and energy drink. I actually built little cupcakes before, and I was like doing the hand cam thing, and it was so frustrating because some of the pieces are missing, and then like they're so tiny, and then like I have to like shave off part of them, and that's how I get them to fit. Double hydration max, right? I have a V8 energy drink, so it's actually a healthy one, and then I have water. The little resin ones, they're plastic. They're plastic. Alright, where did we leave off? There it is. you health, but it tastes good. It's orange pineapple. Don't knock it until you try it, okay? You're running out of fish now that the river's low, aren't you? Leafpaw guessed bravely. Mothwing looked at her for a long moment. Yes, we haven't eaten well for a while. Does that mean Leopardstar might consider leaving now? To her dismay, Mothwing shook her head. Leopardstar says we will stay as long as there are no two legs in our territory. She says that if the river cannot feed us, we'll have to learn to hunt new prey. Leafpaw felt a searing pang of frustration at the stubborn River Clan leader. There was no new prey, she longed to screech, but she did not want to show disrespect for Mothwing's clan. You've become a great medicine cat, she mewed, clumsily changing the subject. Cinderpelt wouldn't have done anything different to help Mudfur. Leafpaw almost leapt out of her fur when Hawkfrost's voice sounded right beside her ear. You're right, he agreed. The clan would be lucky to have such a good medicine cat when Mudfur goes to hunt with StarClan. I think Hawkfrost has more faith in me than I do myself, Mothwing murmured. You have no reason to doubt yourself, Hawkfrost insisted. Our father was a great warrior. Our mother is proud and strong. They shared only one flaw, that their only loyalty was, and still is in Sasha's case, to themselves above all other cats. He paused and glanced around the clearing. We're not like that. We understand what it means to be loyal to our clan. We have enough courage to live by the warrior code. And because of that, we'll be most powerful cat in River Clan one day. And our clanmates will have to respect us then. Leafpaw felt as if she'd been flung headfirst into an icy river. However much Hawkfrost pledged to live by the warrior code, that sort of ambition could make him dangerous, like his father before him. Mothwing gave a purr of amusement. Mustn't take anything from my brother. Oh, I said that the wrong way. Me. My brain just went dyslexic on that. I'm rereading it. You mustn't take anything my brother says too seriously, he told Leafpaw. He's the bravest and most loyal cat in River Clan, but he gets carried away sometimes. Leafpaw blinked. She hoped with all of her heart that Mothwing was right. But the arrogance that glinted in Hawkfrost's eyes filled her heart with unease. Something told her, some instinct that made her fur crawl, that this was only the beginning. Hawkfrost could not be trusted. That's the end of chapter 12. Chapter 13. Scorepaw dropped the mouse on the fresh kill pile. It did little to bulk up the meager offerings of a sparrow and a vole already brought in by Dawn Patrol. Sorrento had hunted with her, but had caught nothing. Take that straight to the elders, Firestar mewed, padding over to them. Not to Ferncloud? Scorepaw queried. Cinderpelt says she won't eat anything yet. Firestar sighed. But Cody has been sharing food with Birchkit. That kitty pet should go back to her two legs and stop eating our fresh kill, Sorrento commented irritably. She's no good for hunting. Cody takes hardly anything for herself, Firestar pointed out. And while she cares for Birchkit, the other cats have more time for hunting. Squirrelpaw glanced sympathetically at Sorrento. He probably resented Cody more for taking up Leafpaw's time than for being a kitty pet. She picked up a mouse and carried it to where the elders were, making the most of the frail warmth of sun high at the top of Sunning Rocks. Frostfur and Speckletail had their eyes closed, dozing. Longtail, the blind Tom, who is no older than some of the warriors, sat up. I smell a mouse, he mewed. It's not very big, I'm afraid, Squirrelpaw apologized. It's fine, Longtail assured her. He prodded the mouse with his paw, and the tip of his tail twitched excitedly when the little body shifted, as if the desire to hunt for himself had not dimmed. Suddenly, he lifted his head and opened his mouth to scent the air. Windclamp, he exclaimed, more in surprise than alarm. What here? Mewed Squirrelpaw, looking around. She didn't think her father was expecting visitors. At the foot of the rock, Tosstar was leading a small, bedraggled patrol out of the woods. The ThunderClan cats watched them climb slowly up to where Firestar waited. No cat challenged them. Tosstar's step was so faltering, his frame so emaciated. How do you even say that word? Emaciated? I think you say emaciated. I'm sorry, sometimes the words that I see in this book are completely random, and you only see them once in the entire series, and I'm like, it makes me pause. His frame so emaciated that Squirrelpaw was amazed he made it all the way there. The two warriors that accompanied him were in no better condition. One Whisker and Torn Ear were so thin they looked like they're made of twigs and leaves, and Squirrelpaw half feared the breeze might blow them away. Crowpaw was at the rear of the patrol, looking thinner than he had on the journey to the Sundrown Place, though he was not quite as scrawny as his companions. Squirrelpaw bounded down the slope to touch noses with him in greeting. When she got closer, she saw that his eyes were dull as his clanmates, and his fur was ungroomed. Crowpaw, she exclaimed. You okay? I'm as fit as any of my clan, Crowpaw growled. Torn Ear blinked at her. Crowpaw has been hunting like a whole patrol on his own, finding prey to feed nearly all of the clan, he reported. Squirrelpaw pricked her ears. He even caught a hawk 2 sunrises ago, Torn Ear went on, even though starvation seemed to have robbed the WindClan warrior of all emotion. Squirrelpaw thought she detected a hint of pride in Torn Ear's voice. Crowpaw shrugged. I used the trick that the tribe taught us. Crowpaw! Brambleclaw came bounding up the rock. Squirrelpaw saw his eyes darken, and she guessed he was as shocked as she had been to find their friend so gaunt and lifeless. Tosstar's voice distracted her. Firestar, we have come to plead for ThunderClan's help. He rasped, as if the effort of speaking were too much. His legs buckled and he collapsed onto his side. Squirrelpaw started to go over to help him, but Brambleclaw held her back with a touch of his tail. The two legs have started to destroy the warrens we've been searching, Tosstar panted. We cannot stay a moment longer on the moor, but we are too weak to travel alone. I don't care that we haven't had another sign. I just know we have to leave. Take us to this Sundrown Place. I beg you. Firestar looked down at Tosstar, and Squirrelpaw saw sorrow flash in his eyes. We've been allies many times, he murmured, and to watch you starve is more than I can bear. He lifted his gaze and stared into the forest, and as he did, so the brambles under the trees rustled, and the pale bracken-colored shape exploded from the bushes. Tawny Pelt! The Shadow Clan cat's pelt bristled, and her eyes were wild with fear. The two legs are attacking our camp, she yelled, her voice echoing over the rock. They have surrounded us with their monsters. Please come. Firestar bounded down the slope ahead of the others. Even Tallstar hauled himself to his paws and hurried toward the Shadow Clan warrior. Please help us, Tawnypelt cried to Firestar. Help us, for the sake of ThunderClan blood that runs in my veins, if nothing else. Firestar brushed the tip of his tail across her mouth. We will come for the sake of Shadow Clan. he told her gently. And for the sake of all clans in this forest. He looked at his warriors. Thornclaw, Master, Sandstorm. You will each lead a patrol. It would take all those strong enough to fight. Instantly, the three warriors began weaving among the cats, issuing orders. What about defending the camp? Dustpelt called. Defend it from what? Firestar replied. The only creatures that threaten us now are already attacking Shadow Clan. What about River Clan? Leafpaw's quiet mew sounded from higher up the slope. She fell silent as the ThunderClan warriors turned to stare at her. Squirrelpaw's heart lurched. His sister was right. With the camp undefended, Hawkfrost might persuade RiverClan to claim Sun and Rocks for themselves. But the warriors clearly misunderstood Leafpaw's warning. RiverClan won't help us, Mouse first spat. They might, Cinepaw argued. The river's drying up. RiverClan are not well fed as they used to be. Squirrelpaw glanced at Brambleclaw. They weren't the only ones have noticed the river. If RiverClan was suffering, they were more likely to help ThunderClan than attack them. But her nagging suspicion of Hawkfrost remained. Firestar's eyes lit up with hope. Brambleclaw, he called. Go to RiverClan and ask Leopardstar for help. Yes, Firestar. Find Mistyfoot first, Squirrelpaw whispered. Make sure Hawkfrost comes too. He shouldn't be left behind at the camp. Brambleclaw narrowed his eyes. Think you would attack here? It's better to be safe. Brambleclaw snorted. You're too suspicious, he growled, and pelted away. Squirrelpaw felt a prickle of guilt. She hoped Brambleclaw didn't think her suspicions included him. Squirrelpaw, you'll join my patrol, Sandstorm ordered. Stay near me or Dustpelt. Squirrelpaw nodded. Her paws tingled with excitement. It was time to fight back. Or, time to accept that the forest had been lost and leave. Even the Wind Clan warriors seemed to have brightened at the prospect of battle. One Whisker thrashed his tail in agitation, while Torn Ear paced back and forth in front of him. We'll come with you, Tallstar announced, his croaking voice finding new strength. Firestar shook his head. You are not strong enough. Tallstar fixed Firestar with a stern gaze. My warriors and I are coming. Firestar dipped his head. Very well, he mewed respectfully. He surveyed his clan. Masfer, Sandstorm, Thornclaw, are your patrols ready? The three warriors nodded. This may be our last battle in the forest, Firestar went on, his voice barely louder than a growl. We won't be able to stop the Two Legs completely, but we can try to save Shadow Clan. He looked at Leafpaw. We need you with us to look after any wounded cats. Cinderpet will stay behind and take care of the cats here. Squirrelpaw knew that the medicine cat's old injury meant she would be more valuable to the clan here at Sunning Rocks, ready to tend to any cat who returned from battle injured. She felt a flash of protectiveness towards her sister, then reminded herself that the medicine cats learned fighting skills as well as any warrior. As Firestar led his clan down the slope, Squirrelpaw heard One Whisker whispering to his leader. Tallstar, you're on your last life. He was mewing urgently. Please, stay here. Whether I'm on my first or my 9th, my duty is to the forest, Tallstar replied calmly. I will not miss this battle. Squirrelpaw saw icy determination in the old cat's eyes, and felt glad for the sake of his dignity, when One Whisker just nodded and walked beside him down the slope to the other cats. Firestar paused for a moment at the edge of the trees to check that all patrols were ready before charging into the forest. Squirrelpaw pelted after him with Tawnypelt beside her, their paws thrumming on the hard ground. She glanced back. No cat had fallen behind. Even Tallstar was keeping pace. They followed the river until they were safely past the two-leg clearing nearest the ravine and swerved around to reach the crest of the slope that led down to 4 trees. Firestar didn't hesitate, but that led them straight over the top of the rise. In the hollow, the slaughtered trees had been neatly stacked in piles. With a sickening jolt, Squirrelpaw saw that the great rock had been utterly crushed, reduced to nothing more than a massive pile of cracked stone. Crowpaw weaved through the running cats and fell in step beside her. "Don't look at it," he warned. Even if the great rock were still here, it wouldn't help ShadowClan. Suddenly, a yowl rang out from behind them, and Firestar swerved to a halt. The cats behind him stopped and spun around. Mistyfoot, the RiverClan deputy, stood at the top of the slope. She had her clan's finest warriors beside her, Stormfur, Blackclaw, Mothwing, and beside them the imposing shape of Hawkfrost. Next to him stood Brambleclaw. The outline of his head and shoulders matched with Hawkfrost against the pale sky. "Wait," Mistyfoot called down. "RiverClan will join you." Brambleclaw raced over to Squirrelpaw. "How did he persuade Leopardstar to let them come?" she gasped. "It wasn't hard," Brambleclaw told her. "They're hungry and growing desperate." Stormfur pushed his way through the restless cats to join them. "We'll be fighting together." "It is as it should be," Crowpaw growled from behind. Looking around, Squirrelpaw realized that all the cats had returned from the Sundran Place were beside her. Brambleclaw, Stormfur, Crowpaw, and Tawnypelt glanced up at the sky. "Feathertail, are you watching us?" She closed her eyes for a moment, hoping they hadn't left their friend behind forever with a tribe of rushing water. "Come on," Firestar called, with a fierce battle cry that led them toward the ShadowClan territory. The Thunderpath that had divided ThunderClan from ShadowClan for many moons lay eerily silent. "They stopped the other monsters from coming here just before they started destroying our part of the forest," Tawnypelt whispered to Squirrelpaw. "At least it makes it easier to cross," she added dryly. The hard surface felt icy underneath as Squirrelpaw raced over it into the trees. She heard the distant roaring of monsters and smelled their acrid scent. Her paws trembled, but fury urged her on. Crowpaw raced alongside her, his eyes grimly focused on the path. Squirrelpaw was amazed that his bony, ragged body possessed such strength. She glimpsed a 2-legged monster through the trees. Its great yellow forepaws were lowered, its claws unsheathed as it tore through the undergrowth. Suddenly, a violent and unnatural sound filled the forest, and Squirrelpaw scrambled to a standstill. All around, the forest rang with dreadful creaking and groaning that seemed to split the air, flattening her body against the trembling forest floor. She saw a 2-legged monster only 10 lengths away, with massive paws, ripped an oak from the ground, dragging its roots from the earth as if it were a blade of grass. The tree's branches crashed like hail as the monster tipped it over and began to strip the trunk, showering the cats with chips of bark. Something growled behind them, and Squirrelpaw whirled around to find their escape blocked as another monster rolled steadily towards them. "They're nearly at the camp," Tawnypelt yelled. With a sickening feeling of dread, Squirrelpaw saw more monsters ahead, turning their way towards the tangle of brambles that hid the Shadow Clan camp. "We'll have to go that way," Firestar called, gesturing with his tail towards a gap in the trees that the monsters had not yet reached. "No!" spat Crowpaw. "It'll be quicker this way." He darted forwards, heading straight for the camp. "Stop! You'll be killed!" Squirrelpaw leapt on Crowpaw's back and dragged him to the ground, digging in her claws. He collapsed beneath her, hissing with fury. "Get off of me!" Brambleclaw raced over to them. "Don't be such a fool, Crowpaw." "He's gone mad," Squirrelpaw shrieked. "I'm not going to let him kill himself." "I'm not frightened of joining StarClan," Crowpaw spat back. "The forest is dying anyway. At least in StarClan, Feathertail will be waiting for me." That is the end of chapter 13. And wow. I guess that explains why Crowpaw is on such a vendetta. Why he was hunting like a madman, enough for any hunting patrol. He's still grief-stricken. Back when Feathertail died, defeating Sharptooth. Yeah. He lost the one cat he fell in love with. Poor guy. Chapter 14. Brambleclaw leaned down and snarled into Crowpaw's face. "You would rather join a dead warrior than fight to save live ones?" Squirrelpaw felt the fight drain from Crowpaw's body, but Brambleclaw went on. "Your clan needs you now, more than ever. Use your head and follow Firestar's orders. Squirrelpaw, you can take your claws off him now." Gingerly, she let go, half expecting Crowpaw to dart off into the trees again. But the WindClan apprentice only stood up and shook himself. Behind them, the elm-killing monster attacked its victim. Thorn-sharp splinters of wood shot through the air, and Squirrelpaw felt searing pain as a tiny sliver of bark stabbed into her flank. "Now!" yelled Firestar. The cats leapt forwards just as the monster tore a branch from the elm, sending it crashing onto the forest floor where the cat had stood a heartbeat before. Firestar stopped when they reached the bramble thicket. "Sandstorm, take Leafpaw and the rest of your patrol and get the kits and queens out," he ordered. "Mousefur, take Torn-Ear and Crowpaw with your patrol and find the elders." Squirrelpaw turned to follow her mother, but Firestar called her back. "Squirrelpaw, I need you here," he commanded. "Thornclaw, you help the apprentices get out. RiverClan warriors go with him, please." Mistyfoot nodded and darted off with the ThunderClan cat. "Dustpelt, wait at the entrance and make sure everyone escapes. Don't let any cat block the way." "What about me?" One Whisker demanded as the others charged away. "I'll get to you soon," Firestar promised. He turned to Tawnypelt, who was tearing at the ground with the long hooked claws. "You know this part of the forest better than any of us. We can't go back the way we came. Which way is the quickest out of here?" "That way," Tawnypelt answered at once, nodding to a break in the trees. "If we're quick, we'll get to it before the monsters and pick up a trail that would take us to the tunnel underneath the Thunderpath." Firestar turned back to One Whisker and Tallstar. "You two must defend our escape route," he meowed. It was the least dangerous of all the tasks, and Squirrelpaw guessed that her father was trying to preserve the WindClan leader's last life. Firestar looked at Brambleclaw and Squirrelpaw. "You two, let Tawnypelt take you into the camp. She'll know which den is which. Make sure that no cat remains inside the camp. You hear me yell, get out at once. That'll mean that the monsters have reached the brambles. Brambleclaw pressed his muzzle into Squirrelpaw's ear. Are you okay with this? Of course I am. What do you take me for? A kid who's never left the nursery? Squirrelpaw jerked indignantly away. He blinked at her, his eyes glittering with concern. And she realized with a jolt that he was just worried about her. I'm fine, she promised. It feels like a battle, and I need to fight for the forest, even if we can't win. We can't let Tawny Pelt down. She whirled around and raced for the camp entrance. Tawny Pelt was already scrabbling through the prickly tunnel that led to the camp. As Squirrelpaw pounded after her into the clearing, the stench of terror nearly stopped her dead in her tracks. Ad's gonna start in a minute, you guys. Pelts flashed everywhere as the ShadowClown cats bolted in blind panic. Terrified yowls tore through the air as queens called for their kits, and warriors shrieked orders. Amid the chaos, the newly arrived warriors were somehow managing to stay calm. Squirrelpaw spotted Swordtail and Toyner flanking a group of confused ShadowClan elders to herd them across the clearing. On the far side, Leafpaw urged Running Nose, old ShadowClan medicine cat, towards the camp entrance. Blackstar's white coat stood out among the shadows. A gray apprentice crouched beside him, his fur standing on end. Don't be afraid, the ShadowClan leader growled, nudging his apprentice to his paws. I won't let you die. Wow, page turn is definitely a good point of pausing. I will be right back, you guys, after the ads. And we're almost back from the ads. You know, a little bit of speculation now that the high rock is actually pebbles. I think that standing on top of it is actually going to be in its pebble form. And the dying warrior is probably going to be like on top of the rocks or something. You know what I mean? Maybe they'll like sprawl out or something. Welcome back from the ads, everyone. Now we can continue on. He began to push the petrified apprentice towards the tunnel. Suddenly, a kit squealed from the far end of the clearing. Blackstar turned to look, and Squirrelpaw followed his gaze. The tiny scrap of dark brown fur had flattened itself on the ground and screwed its eyes tightly shut. Blackstar Gosh dang it. Blackstar glared at Squirrelpaw. Don't just stand there. Get Smokepaw out while I get that kit. He shoved the apprentice towards her and headed for the kit. Smokepaw stared at her, too stunned to speak or move. There was no time for formal introductions. Squirrelpaw grasped the scruff of his neck in her teeth and started to haul him across the ground. She pushed him into the tunnel and scanned the clearing. Blackstar had grabbed the kit and was pelting towards her. Squirrelpaw darted out of the way just in time to let the ShadowClan leader hurtle past. She rushed over to the nursery thicket and thrust her head into the nest, peering into the shadows. She scented the air and listened for mewling above the roaring of the monsters. The nest was empty. Is everyone out? Mothwing stood beside her, pelt bristling. As Squirrelpaw nodded, she heard Hawkfrost call to one of his clanmates. Done enough. Get out now before the camp is destroyed. Stay until every cat is out, Mistyfoot countermanded. What the hell is counter? Hold on, I gotta look this word up. Countermanded? Countermanded. That's actually a word. To revoke, cancel, or reverse previously issued order or command. Counter. I've never heard someone actually use that word. Countermanded. Noted. Mistyfoot countermanded instantly, her sharp yowl making Hawkfrost freeze in surprise. Stop acting like you're in charge, Mothwing hissed angrily to her brother. Maybe not now, Hawkfrost spat back, but one day. Squirrelpaw felt a shiver chill her fur, but there was no time to think about it. The tortoiseshell ShadowClan queen was struggling to carry her two kids across the clearing. She kept dropping one and dashing back to fetch the other. Squirrelpaw raced over. I'll take this one, she breathed, picking up the tiny bundle in her teeth. The queen flashed her a grateful look, and together they made for the entrance. Dustpelt was waiting outside. Squirrelpaw thrust the kit at him and ran back down the tunnel. The camp was emptying quickly, and the roar of the monsters was deafeningly close. Make sure that no cat remains inside the camp. Firestar's order rang in her ears. She scoured the shadows of the camp wall for cats, terrified that at any moment a monster would crash through. But only Brambleclaw, Tawnypelt, and Mothwing were left in the clearing. Mothwing, get outside and help Leafpaw check for injuries. Brambleclaw hissed. We'll search the camp for stragglers. Mothwing headed for the tunnel. Hurry, she called over her shoulder. Trees were tipping and falling all around the camp, their leafless branches rattling together like dried bones. But Squirrelpaw had not heard her father's signal yet, so she had to assume it was safe to stay. Is everyone out? Brambleclaw demanded. Need to check the dens again to make sure, Tawnypelt panted. I've checked the nursery, Squirrelpaw meowed. It's empty. Did Top Poppy and her kids get out? I helped the queen and her kids to the tunnel, Squirrelpaw told her. Brambleclaw flicked his tail. I'll check the warrior's den. He glanced at Tawnypelt. You check the apprentices. What about the medicine clearing? Squirrelpaw called to Tawnypelt. Little Cloud's gone already. But are any sick cats there? Squirrelpaw demanded. Tawnypelt blinked. I don't know, she admitted. I'll check, Squirrelpaw promised. Where's the entrance? Over there. Tawnypelt pointed with a flick of her tail to a tangle of thorns beside the warrior's den. Squirrelpaw squeezed her way through the narrow tunnel. It opened into a large den, sheltered from the camp and forest by a thick covering of hawthorn branches. The den was empty, and she was about to push her way out when she heard her father's yell. "Get out! The monsters have reached the camp!" She began to struggle through the tunnel, but the brambles clung to her pelt. She thrashed wildly and felt the thorns dig deeper. A tree groaned overhead, its timber cracking as it began to fall. With a deafening crash, it smashed into the ground so close to the camp wall that Squirrelpaw felt the ground shudder. Wild with fear, she writhed harder, trying to pull herself free. "Brambleclaw!" she shrieked. "Help!" She expected a tree to crash down on top of her at any moment. She'd be killed trying to help ShadowClan, no chance to see their new home. Suddenly, Squirrelpaw felt strong teeth sink into the scruff of her neck and hauled her forwards. The thorns raked her flanks like claws, but she did not care. She leaped to her paws. Brambleclaw was staring at her, his sides heaving. "Thank you," she breathed. She pressed her muzzle against his, but they weren't safe yet. Another tree groaned overhead, and Squirrelpaw looked up to see a shadow loom slowly over the camp. A huge sycamore was tipping towards them, its branches spreading across the sky as it began to topple. "Where's Tawny Pelt?" she cried. "I told her to go," Brambleclaw meowed. "Everyone has left but us. Let's get out of here." The two cats pelted towards the camp entrance and shot through, almost crashing into Dustpelt, who was waiting outside. "You're the last," he yelled. "Come on." Looking over her shoulder, Squirrelpaw saw the sycamore crash down onto the camp, crushing everything beneath its heaving branches. Another of the clan's camps had been destroyed. The home that ShadowClan had lived in for an uncountable moons was gone. Dustpelt led them away through the forest. Tallstar and One Whisker were waiting on the path, staring with wide, horrified eyes as the forest fell about them. Firestar, Leafpaw, and Tawnypelt were with them. "Hurry," One Whisker urged. "The others are already heading for the Thunder Path." "Thought you hadn't heard my warning," Firestar gasped. "I got stuck," Squirrelpaw explained breathlessly. "Where's Crowpaw?" Brambleclaw asked, asking around. "Heading for the tunnel." Firestar flinched as another oak smashed into the ground nearby. "Did all the queens and kits get out?" Tawnypelt demanded. "Blackstar had a kit," One Whisker answered, "and there was a tortoiseshell with 2 kits." "What about Tall Poppy?" "That Tall Poppy was the tortoiseshell," Squirrelpaw gasped. "Tall Poppy's a tabby." Tawnypelt's voice rose in panic. "She got 3 kits, not 2. The cats gazed at one another in dismay. "Thought everyone was out," spat Dustpelt. "The camp was definitely empty," Squirrelpaw panted. "They must have run off into the forest." Squirrelpaw pricked her ears, listening for mewling of kits. "Over there!" One Whisker cried. He pointed with his nose to a clearing surrounded by fragile, pale-bark saplings. They raced over, Squirrelpaw scrabbling to get a grip on the slippery leaves. "Hurry!" Tallstar hissed behind her. She felt Brambleclaw nudging her flank. She struggled to find her footing. A crack sounded above them, and a tree smashed down onto the forest floor only tail lengths ahead, separating them from the others. Squirrelpaw gasped and shut her eyes. "Are you okay?" Brambleclaw demanded. Blinking, she opened her eyes and saw the 3 lying in front of them. Had Leafpaw and the others escaped? She darted forwards away from Tallstar and scrambled onto the newly fallen trunk with Brambleclaw beside her. "They're okay," she yelled in relief. Tawnypelt and Leafpaw were standing in the clearing with Tall Poppy. One Whisker was trying to round up her 3 kits, who were darting about in terror, the little tails stuck straight out behind them. Firestar was at the edge of the clearing, scanning the forest for the best escape route. Looking down, Squirrelpaw saw Tallstar squeezing through the branches of the fallen tree, and limping quickly over to join the ThunderClan leader. Through the trees, Squirrelpaw could see monsters on all sides, munching steadily closer. Suddenly, she heard a terrifyingly familiar creaking sound. "Look out!" she shrieked. An ancient birch tree was toppling towards the clearing. "Save the kits!" Squirrelpaw yelled to Firestar, as the tree cast shadows across his orange pelt. Top Poppy heard her and grabbed a kit. Tawny Pelt picked up another, and, with Leafpaw and Tallstar fast behind, they pelted out of the way. But One Whisker was still diving for the final kit, and Squirrelpaw stared in horror as the tree hurtled towards him. Her heart seemed to stop as the moment stretched into a lifetime. Firestar leapt forwards and hurtled himself against One Whisker's flank. Squirrelpaw just had time to see the WindClan warrior flung clear, the kit grasped safely between his jaws, before the tree hit the ground with a deafening crash. "Firestar, no!" Squirrelpaw bounded down from the trunk and pelted over to the fallen tree. Brambleclaw kept pace with her, swerving away towards the brown tabby-shaped staggering at the edge of the branches. "Got you!" he cried, as he dragged the WindClan warrior and the kit out from where they were tangled in the branch tips. Leafpaw was stumbling, dazed. From underneath a buckled sapling that protected her when the tree fell. But there was no sign of Firestar. A two-leg howled, and another splintering groan made the air tremble. "Get out of here!" Brambleclaw screeched. "I'm not leaving without Firestar!" Squirrelpaw cried. "We'll find him," Brambleclaw promised. He looked at One Whisker. "Get the others to the Thunder Path." The earth shuddered as another tree crashed down behind them. "We'll wait for you at the tunnel," One Whisker promised, as the WindClan and ShadowClan hang on, need more water. As the WindClan and ShadowClan cats fled, Squirrelpaw ran over to where Leafpaw was scrabbling beneath the branches. "I can see him!" she cried, clawing desperately at the earth. Brambleclaw pushed past her, using his head to thrust aside the tangled splinters of wood. Squirrelpaw could see her father's orange pelt, slumped beneath a heavy branch. Brambleclaw stretched forwards and grasped Firestar in his jaws. Trembling with effort, he dragged him out and laid him on the leaf-strewn earth. A shaft of pale sunlight sliced into the clearing and lit up the ThunderClan's golden pelt. He lay very still with his eyes closed. "He's losing a life," Leafpaw whispered. "Firestar." Squirrelpaw's tail began to tremble. "Father!" she yelled. Around them, monsters shook the ground, their yellow eyes blazing between the trees. "We got to get him out of here," Brambleclaw hissed. "Can't risk moving him," Leafpaw warned. Squirrelpaw pressed her belly against the earth. "I'm not leaving without him." An ear-splitting crack exploded above them, and she screwed up her eyes as the forest suddenly went dark. Images flashed through her mind. Sandstorm, old camp, a tribe of rushing water, Feathertail. "StarClan, don't let me die yet. After everything we've been through, I need to know that the clan survives." "Squirrelpaw!" Brambleclaw's call sounded muffled under the fallen branches that covered them. "Where are you?" Squirrelpaw opened her eyes and took a long, shaky breath. The fallen tree was lodged on the trunk of the other, forming a tiny cavern. Brambleclaw's dark, brown pelt was just visible through the twigs. She twitched her tail and flexed her paws, one after the other. "I'm okay," she called. Nothing was broken, but her pelt stung where branches had scraped against it. Brambleclaw, are you hurt? With a grunt, she hauled herself towards him and stretched out her head to lick his flank. It's all right. I'm fine, Brambleclaw muttered, struggling to sit up. Can you see your sister anywhere? Squirrelpaw strained her eyes in the gloom. Leafpaw? I'm over here, came a voice. Squirrelpaw could make out her shape now. She was crouching over Firestar, protecting his body with her own. The kids. Is it safe? When Squirrelpaw heard her father's rasping mew, she wriggled upright, ducking her head under the branches until she could straighten her legs. She felt the blood pulsing through her paws, cold as ice. She forced her way through the twigs until her father's breath wafted against her cheek. His eyes were glazed, but open. Did you speak with StarClan? Leafpaw whispered to him. I could hardly see them, Firestar croaked, but I know they were there. He lifted his head. Did one whisker rescue the kit? Yes, they are both safe. Brambleclaw squeezed through the branches to Squirrelpaw's side. Squirrelpaw searched Leafpaw's gaze. Will Firestar be okay? Be fine, Leafpaw replied. She pressed her nose against Squirrelpaw's cheek. Don't be scared. This was meant to happen. Squirrelpaw felt her heart beating in her throat. How can we get him out of here? I can walk, Firestar mewed, hauling himself up unsteadily to his paws. Suddenly, a two-leg howled above them. It sounded so close that Squirrelpaw spun around with a snarl. She looked up. Shadow loomed over the branches that covered them. We must go now, Brambleclaw hissed. The two-leg was peering down through the tangle of twigs. Leafpaw flattened her belly against the ground, her eyes stretched wide in horror. I won't let them catch you again, Squirrelpaw promised. She glanced at Brambleclaw. Can you get them out if I distract the two-leg? Brambleclaw blinked. I'm not sure that's safe, he began. I'll be okay, Squirrelpaw insisted. Come on, we don't have much time. Without waiting, she struggled out from the branches. She could see the two-leg's hind legs in front of her. Giving a loud screech of fury, she shot between them, raking the two-leg's pelt with her claws as she rushed past. She heard it howl and glanced back to see it lumbering after her, away from her clanmates. Squirrelpaw pelted over the splinter-strewn forest floor. Ahead, the monster lifted its claws into the air to bring down another tree. Squirrelpaw dodged into a swath of brambles and looked back for her clanmates. StarClan helped them, and she glimpsed her father's orange pelt weaving through the branches of the fallen tree, heading for the far side of the clearing. Brambleclaw ran beside him, and Leafpaw's brown tabby fur flashed behind. As they reached the open ground where they could be seen more easily, Squirrelpaw tipped back her head and yowled. She heard the two-leg run over and start kicking at the brambles, trying to flush her out. Squirrelpaw crawled backwards, ducking her head, and yowled again. She had to keep the two-leg focused on her, while the others escaped. Peering out through the thorns, she saw Brambleclaw glance in her direction, but he kept going till they reached the safety of the standing trees. Squirrelpaw straightened up with relief. Wriggling around, she forced her way through the brambles and skirted the edge of the clearing until she reached the path that led to the tunnel. Firestar, Brambleclaw, and Leafpaw were hurrying towards her. You made it, Leafpaw gasped. Keep going, Brambleclaw hissed. Squirrelpaw fell in beside them. Firestar staggered, his paws stumbling on the packed earth. Don't stop now, she urged, pressing against him. Brambleclaw flanked his other side, and between them, they had kept their leader on his paws as they carried him to safety of the tunnel that led to the ThunderClan territory. They had escaped the Two Legs this time, but how much longer would it be before the whole forest was lost to them forever? That is the end of chapter 14. So this next chapter is the last chapter for the stream. Alright, chapter 15. Leafpaw burst out of the tunnel and led under the Thunderpath. Brambleclaw and Squirrelpaw followed, with Firestar stumbling between them. For a moment, the light was blinding. Leafpaw screwed up her eyes. Then they adjusted to the cold daylight after the shadows in the tunnel. And she looked around at the ShadowClan cats lying exhausted in the narrow strip of grass beside the deserted Thunderpath. Tall Poppy's kits mewled as they huddled close to their mother. Little Cloud hurried from one cat to another, helpless without any of his supplies. And Blackstar stood staring at his clan, as if he couldn't believe what was happening to them. His white pelt was stained with blood. His black paws were pricked with bark and splinters. Firestar's voice croaked behind her. Is everyone okay? You should lie down, Leafpaw urged him. There are no monsters here. You can't stay in the open, Brambleclaw objected. You have to rest before we go on, Leafpaw insisted. Tallstar limped toward her. Is Firestar all right? He asked hoarsely. Yes, but he lost a life when the tree fell, Leafpaw explained. Tallstar closed his eyes and shuddered all the way to the tip of his long tail. Taking my warriors home, Mistyfoot called from where the RiverClan cats gathered at the edge of the grassy space. Will you help us get ShadowClan to Sunning Rocks first? Firestar asked. Sunning Rocks? Blackstar narrowed his eyes. Why do you want to take us there? It's where ThunderClan lives now, and you'll be safe from the Two Legs there, Firestar meowed. Cinderpet has herbs for your injured cats, and there's room for you all to rest. Where else can ShadowClan go? Leafpaw thought grimly. There's hardly a place left in the forest that hadn't been taken over by the Two Legs. Okay, Mistyfoot nodded. I'll go with you as far as Sunning Rocks, but just because you've welcomed ShadowClan onto ThunderClan territory doesn't mean they're welcome in ours. I'll be patrolling the border, Blackfrost warned, his eyes cold as ice. Squirrelpaw glared at him. How can you worry about borders at a time like this? And we realized what our journey meant for all the clans. Brambleclaw silenced her with a glance. ShadowClan would not cross the border, he promised. Of course we won't, snapped Blackstar. Brambleclaw turned to Leafpaw. How long before we can leave? When Leafpaw hesitated, Firestar lifted his head. I'm growing stronger, he insisted. Go soon. Little Cloud, she called to the ShadowClan medicine cat. Can everyone make it to Sunning Rocks? I think so. We travel slowly. Small Tabby Tom replied. Leafpaw looked up at the sky. The sun was a fiery ball, sinking toward the treetops. To try to get back before it's dark, she told Brambleclaw, or it's too cold. Hi, welcome in. Hope you're enjoying the story. Okay, Brambleclaw mewed. We'll rest long enough for everyone to catch their breath, then we'll move on. Thin clouds drifted in front of the sinking sun as the cats trekked through the woods. Tall Poppy? Leafpaw matched her pace to the limping ShadowClan queens. Are your kits all right? Tall Poppy gazed at her three kits. Carried now by warriors, and nodded. "Just scratches," she murmured. "We can clean them and treat them with marigold when we get to Sunning Rocks," Leafpaw promised. Mistyfoot padded close beside Tallstar, pressing against the WindClan leader's flank whenever he stumbled. Brackenfur carried one of Tall Poppy's kits, and Torn Ear followed the ShadowClan apprentices, nudging them gently forward whenever they slowed their step. "It's as if we don't belong to different clans anymore," Leafpaw whispered, catching up with Squirrelpaw. Her sister nodded. This is what it was like on the journey to the Sundown Place. But as the cats limped onto the sloping surface of Sunning Rocks, the old rifts returned. ShadowClan climbed to the top of the rock, while RiverClan halted beside the trees. There's going to be ad break that starts in a minute, you guys. Brackenfur placed the kit beside Tall Poppy and rejoined the ThunderClan cats as they padded slowly up the slope. He pressed his golden brown flank against Sorreltail's, supporting her as her exhausted paws swayed beneath her. Tallstar lay down close to the base of the rock, too tired to climb any further. One Whisker, Torn Ear, and Crowpaw gathered around him. How did it go? Whitepaw rushed over to Brightheart and pressed her nose into her flank. She drew back quickly. "You're bleeding." "Just some scratches," Brightheart reassured her. "You're alive." Cody hurried down from the overhang with Birchkit stumbling after her. She pressed her muzzle against Leafpaw's. Alright. Now that we're in the ad break, some of you are lucky and you're not going to be in the ad break. I'm going to be right back, and then we'll continue on with the story once everyone's back. Be right back. I don't know how you keep getting lucky, Sam. I guess maybe it might just be like the region you're at. You might not be having ads like everyone else. I know that some people get it though, and some people like don't. That's why I just take a break when it says that there's an ad break happening. That way no one's missing out, because I have seen people get ads. But I also know that under the ASMR category, a lot of people don't get ads for some reason. Welcome back, everyone, if you're stuck in ads. We're gonna continue on with the story now. Sam, you're just super lucky. Ferncloud appeared at the lip of the nursery and stared down in bewilderment as the cats crowding onto the rock. What happened? Everyone's safe, Grandma shouldered his way to the front of the patrol. That's the main thing. Thanks, Star Clan. The ThunderClan Queen sighed. Cinderpelt clambered out over Hollow. Where's Firestar? I'm here, Firestar croaked, weaving his way to the front. Leafpaw followed him closely, aware that he was still shaking. Firestar lost a life, she murmured, before Cinderpelt could say anything. What about the ShadowClan camp? Frostfur demanded. Did you save it? Not fight the monsters, Firestar meowed bleakly. Could do nothing except help ShadowClan escape before their camp was destroyed. They destroyed the camp? Frostfur gasped. There was nothing left but fallen trees, Blackstar growled. We have no home. We'll be safe here for now, Firestar told the ShadowClan leader. Blackstar's eyes glimmered with relief for a moment. Then he turned to his medicine cat. Little Cloud, he meowed. Do what you can to help your clanmates. The small tabby Tom began to pace quickly around the ShadowClan cats. He leaned down and sniffed Tall Poppy and began to lick her flank. There are many splinters here, he mewed, lifting his head. Tallstar has a gash on his hind leg, One Whisker added. Cinderpelt looked at the bloodstained pelts around her. Fetch everything we have, she told Leafpaw. Just have to hope it will be enough. Leafpaw heard paw steps following her as she hurried to the crevice where they stored their medicine supplies. It was Cody. There's so many injuries. The kitty pet's eyes were wide and frightened. We're all still alive, Leafpaw pointed out, reaching down into the gully with her paw. She pulled out the first bundle of herbs she touched. Can you take out the splinters? I can do more than that, Cody answered. Come on, Bert's kit, she called, patted toward the group of ShadowClan kits trembling with fear and cold. Is this kitty pet a medicine cat? Blackstar growled. It's okay, Leafpaw called out. She knows what she's doing. Cody soothed each kit with a reassuring lick and encouraged Birch Kit to distract them while she searched their fur for cuts and splinters. Leafpaw pushed her paw back into the crevice. She hoped there was enough berries to make poultices for all the cats who needed one. To her surprise, she found the hiding place was better stocked than she expected. She pulled out as much marigold as she could find and reached back in for the berries. Cinderpelt appeared behind her and nodded when she saw the pile of herbs growing on the rock. I went back to the ravine while you were away and brought as much as I could carry, she explained. She paused and looked at the mass of ShadowClan cats milling fretfully at the top of the slope. Their faces bewildered and frightened. Help ShadowClan first, she ordered. There are too many for Little Cloud to manage alone, and I can cope with Tallstar and our own wounded. Will Blackstar mind if I help? Leafpaw asked. The ShadowClan leader sat with his elders, his eyes fixed on Cody as she tackled another kit. You persuaded him to let Cody help, Cinderpelt reminded her. She's not a ThunderClan cat, Leafpaw mewed. Cinderpelt gazed at her through narrowed eyes. Blackstar's no fool. He knows his cats need our help. Leafpaw nodded, summoning up her courage. She padded toward the ShadowClan cats and called to Little Cloud. Can I help? The look in Little Cloud's eyes gave way with relief and gratitude. But before he could reply, Blackstar rounded on Leafpaw, his eyes as hard as the moonstone. We can take care of our own cats, thank you. We've already allowed Cody to help, and I have herbs, she offered, forcing herself to sound calm. Little Cloud will manage, Blackstar insisted. Leafpaw shuffled her paws, toying between her duties as a medicine cat and nervous respect for Blackstar's wishes. and Little Cloud mewed loudly. Blackstar, we need those herbs. Blackstar flattened his ears, but Little Cloud held his gaze. With Leaf Paw, I can help our clanmates twice as fast. Blackstar twitched his ears. Very well, he growled. Can I help too? Mothwing padded across the rock to join them. Mistyfoot said it would be okay. He may as well, Blackstar grunted, turning away. Thanks, Mothwing, Leafpaw whispered. She left the bundle of herbs at Mothwing's paws and hurried back to Crevice to fetch more. Cinderpet was still there and had begun mixing a salve on a dried oak leaf. This is ready to use, she muttered through a mouthful of half-crushed berries. Oh no, Lechi's redeeming stuff. Okay, thank you for the pats. I will hydrate and I will stretch. What do you mean, oh no? I said oh no because I mean oh no. Self-care, oh no. Gosh. Did you hear my knuckle crack when you said that I had to stretch? And I just like cracked one of my knuckles. Mm. Oh, thank you, Lechi. You heard it crack. Yeah. Pat, pat. I can actually make my hand crack like that like every 10 minutes. I just like push my fingers back on my right hand and they just go crack. Alright. Now. Back to the story. Now that I self-cared. Thank you, Lechi. This is ready to use, she muttered through a mouthful of half-crushed berries. Come back when you need more. Leafpaw went back and dropped the salve beside Little Cloud. He was examining Running Nose's pelt. Pop this in after you pulled out the splinters, he told him. It will stop any infection. She gazed around at the ShadowClan cats. Where would you like me to start? The elders hear slowly, so they should be treated as soon as possible, Little Cloud advised without looking up. Your back probably sounds like 11 plus compacts closing at the same time. No, actually, my back doesn't crack that easy. I would believe Wampus's back sounds like that, though. Leafpaw went over to Boulder, who was lying beside Running Nose. His eyes glazed with shock. She nodded politely at him, and when he did not respond, she leaned down and began to lick his flank. The old cat sighed quietly as she pulled out a splinter with her teeth and rubbed in a tiny drop of salve. Leafpaw worked on one cat after another till her paws ached with tiredness. As the moon began to brighten in the sky, she glanced up the slope towards her father. Cody, can you take over here? She asked. There are only 1 or 2 apprentices left, and I want to see how Firestar is. Of course, you go right ahead. Firestar was lying beside Sandstorm, washing dried blood from between his claws. How are you? Leafpaw whispered, touching her muzzle to his. I'm fine, he purred, his eyes soft and clear. Are you sure? He searched his face. For all her connection with StarClan, she'd never know what it felt like to lose a life. Did StarClan tell you we should leave for the forest now? They told me only to go back and do what I must do to protect my clan. Firestar told her. That's what I'm going to do. Leafpaw heard the RiverClan cats gathering on the slope behind her. What chapter are we on right now? 15. The last chapter for the stream. We're returning to our camp. Mistyfoot announced to Firestar. But we know that the time has come to make a decision about leaving the forest. Yep. Leafpaw held her breath. The fate of all 4 clans hung like a cobweb, fragile to the gentlest breath of the wind. I'm sure many of you have noticed that the river is drying up, Mistyfoot went on. One whisker patted forwards. The 2 lakes have changed the course of the water, he meowed. Our warriors have seen them digging great holes around the gorge to channel the river away. Mistyfoot just blinked at him, as if the reason for the disappearance of the river no longer mattered. Leopardstar told me that if ShadowClan camp was destroyed, then we must accept that the 2 lakes are coming. He held Firestar's gaze steadily. RiverClan will leave the forest with the other clans. Leafpaw felt her shoulders sag with relief. At last, Firestar would have his wish, and all 4 clans would leave together. Firestar hauled himself to his paws, his eyes brightening. One whisker. Tell your clanmates that ThunderClan and RiverClan will travel with them. He turned his face towards Blackstar. Will ShadowClan join us? Blackstar hesitated, but Firestar was in no mood to wait for an answer. You can't still plan to live among the 2 lakes after you've seen what they're capable of, he hissed. Blackstar nodded slowly. ShadowClan will travel with you, he meowed. After all, you have no home and no territory now. Firestar lifted his head to address all the cats on the rock. We will leave at dawn. News of approval echoed through the air. Leafpaw felt a tingle of excitement. Whatever the journey held, wherever they were going, nothing could be worse than to stay in this place with the 2 lakes and the monsters closing in on all sides. She glanced at Cody, still busy among the ShadowClan cats. Would there be time to escort her home first? Or had she become such a part of the clan that she'd go with them? Where will we go? Tornir was the first to ask, but his question echoed around the gathering. Firestar looked expectantly at Brambleclaw. The tabby warrior looked down to his paws. Squirrelpaw, standing beside him, pressed her flank against his. Leafpaw tipped her head to one side, puzzled. They looked like a pair of unprepared apprentices had just been asked the best way to catch water voles. As you know, Midnight's sign never came, Brambleclaw began, dragging the words out as if they stuck in his throat like thorns. So we don't know exactly where we should go, but we could head towards the Sundrown place. There's been no sign before we get there. You'd find Midnight again and ask her, Squirrelpaw put in. How do we get to this Sundrown place? Blackstar called. We traveled 2 different routes. Brambleclaw broke off, looked uncertainly at Squirrelpaw. Do you know which one to take? Firestar suggested. Brambleclaw faltered. We should head for the high stones first, he meowed at last. Away from the 2 lakes. Very well, Firestar agreed. We shall meet at the edge of WindClan's territory at dawn. Mistyfoot and Tallstar nodded. Then it's decided. Firestar turned to Blackstar. It'd be easier for all of us if ShadowClan would sleep at Sunning Rocks tonight, he meowed, choosing his words carefully. We can make an earlier start if you were to rest here. Blackstar seemed to appreciate Firestar's diplomacy. We will stay, he meowed. As if they had got any other place to go, Sarahtail muttered in Leafpaw's ear. But we will sleep apart from ThunderClan. A guard will be posted, Blackstar warned. These cats have just saved your clan, Mistyfoot exclaimed. You think ThunderClan brought you here only to attack you? Let's hear whether Leopardstar agrees with your plan to leave the forest, before you start making judgments on my decisions, Blackstar retorted. Leafpaw winced. She glanced at her sister, but Squirrelpaw was no longer listening. She was staring into the forest, her face filled with anxiety. Leafpaw padded quietly to her side. Are you okay? I just hope StarClan sends us a sign again soon, Squirrelpaw meowed. I'm sure they would do what they can. Squirrelpaw stared earnestly into her eyes. You're right. Even without a sign, I know StarClan would be protecting us and guiding us wherever we go. Leafpaw blinked. She wished that she were that certain. There had been no sign of StarClan when ShadowClan had needed them most. It was only luck and the other clan's courage that had gotten those cats out alive. More and more, it looked as if StarClan was powerless to help, and the cats would have to rely on one another, nothing else, to survive. That is the end of chapter 15 and the final chapter for the stream. So, I guess they have finally all agreed to leave together. That's good. It's too bad it wasn't sooner when they actually had fish in the river so that they could actually, you know, eat all the fish in the river, be stocked up, and actually leave before the leaf fall actually set in, aka fall. Alright, I'm gonna see if I can find someone to raid. Anyone on my follow list right now? Nope, no one's doing any ASMR on my follow list. Man, I need to get more people. I really do. And you know me, I'm an introvert. I don't just randomly just try to raid random people. Unless, like, they have, like, a similar model or something. And I don't see any right now. Alright, you guys. We're gonna go ahead and end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I hope you enjoyed the story. I guess we're finally gonna get into the hardships of them actually, you know, combining into one force. And we're gonna see how it goes from there. I'm hoping that they don't have too many troubles, but we already know the side prophecy of Fire and Tiger, and I still think it's gonna be Hawk Frost, and it's gonna be, you know, Hawk Frost and Leafpaw. I don't think it's gonna be Bramaclaw and Squirrelpaw. I think it's gonna be Hawk Frost and Leafpaw that are actually the side one. Had a crazy time? No problem. Well, I will see you guys later. Bye bye.